Hello, I'm here to recap Person of Interest, the episode that aired on September 23rd. So, Samaritan is up and running, and thanks to the machine, all of the members of the team, with the exception of Fusco, have been given new identities. So, Finch is Professor Whistler at a university teaching a class about morality and ethics, which is, great, as he's an expert on technology, not so much the human consciousness, which I guess is ironic given his development throughout the episode. Reese is a cop currently in narcotics, is a makeup artist spraying perfume and giving people makeovers. And Root is unknown at the moment, but she did say she had a job interview, so she's got to be hiding out somewhere. So this premiere is really great. They're focusing on a lot of people's individual motivations, a lot of irony, a really great exploration of the purpose of people's lives, and really, really deep stuff, like what are we doing, Just surviving isn't enough, we need a purpose. So at the beginning of the episode, they're pretty much starting from scratch. They don't have any numbers to look out for. They're just trying to adjust to their new lives and their new covers. But people are beginning to feel really edgy, especially John and Shaw, who are just really gun-happy, and they want to be doing something, and they want to shoot people, especially Shaw, because Root comes by and asks her, to check her calendar, and she sees the dating profile on her phone, and some guy named Romeo is trying to contact her. At first, she's like, whatever. But then their calendars lead them to specific places that get them into situations that the machine has obviously planned out for them. So we know that there's been a plan. So for Reese, it leads him to a homicide with Detective Fusco, and because he's still on homicide, so he's actually really funny. They're both like, "What are you doing here?" And Fusco's like, "Well, last time I checked, I was on homicide, and that looks like a body." So Reese, helping out with this investigation, who is under the guise of Detective Riley, I believe, he is promoted by the end of the episode to homicide. So he's now going to be Fusco's partner, replacing Carter after a long time. And everyone held their breath as he put his box of stuff on her desk, and he shared a look with Fusco like, "Man, this was Carter's desk. I can't believe I'm taking her place, but she's gone, but she's not forgotten." So Shaw's profile, actually, by the end of the episode, led her to the Romeo. He was a guy in a truck, probably doing some shady things, kind of undercover, underground stuff, and he was like, "Hey, we need, somebody to drive, and we need another partner. You interested?" And of course, Shaw's like, "Hell yeah, I want to shoot things." So also, Reese and Shaw's calendars lead them to a positivity seminar, of course ironically, given the situation that they're in right now, but that also leads them to a payphone where they get a new number. This number is Ali Hassad, an Egyptian tech guy. He knows a lot about networks, he runs a shop with his son, and some gangs have been contacting him to make him build a new network that cannot be detected and cannot be tapped. Now, we learn later in the episode that the reason that they want this to be built is because HR is no longer around to direct the gigantic drug shipment that is coming, called the Whale. This information was found out from Elias, who has come back. That's right, this premiere has everything. Things get complicated when Ali's son gets taken and used as a bargaining chip to make him finish the network and get their illegal operation up and running. So because this is a pretty techie situation, Reese calls in Finch. Harold Finch has been extremely guilty and extremely distraught over the events of the last season finale. So the whole Grace being taken, then him being put on trial, which was actually a huge stunt to get the senator to agree to put Samaritan online, and then them having to change their identities, having to move out of the library, start all over. He's feeling extremely guilty, and so he's taking everything like it's his fault, and now he has to face the consequences by not doing this anymore. He's not trusting himself, he's not trusting the system he built, he's not trusting any of his friends, and he's just with the dog walking around. He and Reese engage in a diversionary chess game, which was really fun. Where Reese tries to convince him, he says, we need a purpose. John also uses the argument pretty cleverly that the machine was there to, help Grace, and that's the only reason that she made it out alive. And so the machine is looking out for all of them. Harold says, we don't need a purpose. It's not about the numbers anymore. It's just about surviving. Don't you understand? We are in completely over our heads here. Samaritan is everywhere, and no one has control over it. It's a free system, and he's freaking terrified about this. He's also probably distraught that no one showed up to his class. He's kind of lost all faith in the machine and in the work that they do, so he kind of checks out. Luckily, Root comes by to try to change that attitude. She so she is apparently still in connection with the machine. She's still referring to her as a deity, as a higher power, as a her, obviously. And she keeps saying, this isn't the time to lose focus. This isn't the time to be indecisive. This is the time where you need to rise up. And the only chance that we have of winning this war is putting our faith in a higher power, aka the machine. And, Root says, great line. Amy Acker is fantastic, by the way. Says, just because you've stopped listening doesn't mean that she's not still there. Something that Root says really gets to him, and he decides to go help Ali Hassad. And he discovers that he has created a network system that is built off of old TV antennas on top of every building. Now, of course, this spans a lot of area, and with Finch's help, he's able to get the system running. And then when they don't release their son right away, Reese has got to get into action. We all know the story. Reese and Shaw are an amazing kick-butt team. Everything works out, and the son gets returned to his father. The real implications of this is that the team gets back together. Finch's faith has been restored, at least somewhat, so that he's still involved. The most important thing that happens at the end of the episode is that the network that has been set up was not given to the drug lords, but given to this team. So they all got phones that are going to be connected to a line that aren't going to be detected by Samaritan or anybody else. So they have the machine's help, and the machine obviously had this planned out. The reason that she gave them this number is so that they could have this way. So machine may be down, but she is not out. They're all going to start to rise up. This war is definitely not over. It is just beginning. Also, another thing that's explored is the relationship between Harold Finch and John Reese, which I love when they do this. It's really about trust and, having each other's back. And, Reese is like, oh, old times, huh, Finch? Well, not really, detective. And Michael Emerson delivers his lines perfectly. Lee's like, you really trust this guy? And he's like, oh yes, I really do. He's never let me down. And so I guess John is like one of the main reasons that Harold is going to trust this, and he's going to give this a shot. Harold goes back to his office after this whole adventure, and he peruses the dissertation that the machine kind of cooked up for him, and there's been a few grammar mistakes, and so he goes through the entire thing and looks at all the tiny little letters that are wrong, and they spell out a message or some kind of number, and that leads him to the Dewey Decimal System, which leads him to a covered up room that is not fully explained yet. So we'll see what all this means for our team and the machine next week. Bye!